What does an agent look for in their book? The reasons
Well,
publishers tell you to go get an editor.
yeah, absolutely. Before I answer that question in full, or while I'm answering, I'd like to ask how many of you are seeking an agent and how many of you are going down the self-publishing or hybrid publishing route?
Yeah.
Because, we don't want to spend a whole lot of time here if people aren't looking for an agent. But I would say, even if you're looking for it to go with a hybrid publisher or a smaller publisher, a lot of these will still apply whether you are going through a solicited or non-solicited, which basically that just means do you need an agent or not when you submit. The basic answer here is that no matter which route you're going to publish it, you want to make sure that your book is as perfect as possibly can be. We all know, even in traditionally published books, even from large publishers, sometimes an edit or two gets missed. But before you start submitting to an agent, you do want to make sure that you have had it workshopped, that you've had, plenty of feedback, and that you've taken the time to make sure it's as good as possible, especially that intro and opening page and chapter. A lot of agents won't even go past it if the first page has any issues in it. And ironically, even if you get an agent, you'll probably still wind up going through another heavy round of edits. But the point is, before you submit to an agent or to any publisher, you want your book to be as polished as possible, your best foot forward, to make sure that what they see is pretty close to what it's going to be at the end, so that they're like, okay, this is a good book we know we can work with. If you're self-publishing, you are that agent and publisher. So you want to make sure that you're giving yourself the best foot forward you can by having a really polished book.
Okay, and please, everyone, you're welcome to put your comments and your questions in there, and again, answer that, because that's the advantage of having an actual publisher here. They can walk you through all of that. So,
And if I can answer Michael's question really quickly, I know I'm messing
sure.
up our system here, but yeah, you're
No.
right. When an agent rejects you, they're probably not going to tell you why. And there's a lot of reasons why it could be rejected. One is if the first chapter does not grab them, if the first page, if the first paragraph does not grab them, if it's not really well written and set to go out the door in a way that captivates them to want to keep reading, that's a big reason. The second is they may just be the wrong agent. If they don't feel like they can do your book in a good way for them and put your book out into the world in a good way. The third is often, is this book going to sell? Have we seen too many versions of this book? Is this too original? Believe it or not, that happens sometimes when they don't believe it's going to sell. So a lot of it is based on what they believe they can sell to a publisher and what they believe publishers are looking for, because it's a business and we've got to be able to sell those books.
Right. Very important that you match their qualifications. And I think that's also one of the things we want to mention, is that you don't just approach any publisher. You really need to make sure that you're a match. All of these steps are matchmaking to get the best results for you. So when you're looking for a publisher, it needs to match. And when you're looking for an editor, it needs to match. And you need to know what you're looking for, because the editors and the publishers, we know who we can work with. We know exactly what it is. And if you haven't figured that one out, spend a little time digging into, what is your book similar to? Where's your genre? And who's the best person to approach for all that?
Victoria, workshopping basically means going to a writer's group, getting with other critique partners, and going through your chapters with them and getting their feedback, and then making sure that you implement that feedback and make it as good as possible. So as Joellen will talk about with the self-editing process, that's a big part of it, is actually getting feedback from other writers and other people who may be a little farther along than you to really work through that book. How you find out what publishers are looking for, from Elle McIntyre. So that's a great question. You can go over to publishersmarketplace.com and you can look at what books are being published, what genres, who's representing them, all of those types of things. That's a great way for you to figure out what certain types of publishers are looking for. The other thing you can do is you can look in books that are similar to yours and find out who's published that book. So if you love a certain book, look at the publisher, look at a couple different publishers, and then look them up and see if they are taking manuscripts in those genres. And finally, Google. Just go to Google and say publisher for historical romance, World War II, some of the other topics in there. So that's a great way to find out who's publishing books like that.
Do we have any others that we want to cover right now?
Is there a resource guide for finding your agent? I don't know of that particular thing, but you can go to Publishers Marketplace. There's something similar for agents. You can go to events. You can get on Twitter where a lot of agents hang out and look for agents that are taking manuscripts. You can Google agent plus your type of book to see if you can find something. Attend conferences. We're going to have several agents available at the Women in Publishing Summit that will be answering questions and will be providing some feedback through a slush fest. So
Excellent. All right.